afternoon and good evening to everybody. Welcome to the LeverX DataLark webinar. We're happy that you are able to join us. I'm Jim Keefe, Director of Sales at the LeverX Group and your moderator for today's presentation. Our presenters today are Mike McManaman, DataLark Product Owner and Senior SAP Consultant, and Sergey Shakaila, Lead Project Manager. The agenda for today's presentation is an introduction to the DataLark tool, how it simplifies data management, key features, high-level use cases, and a live demo. Just a quick overview of the LeverX Group. We have worked with over 500 clients worldwide, successfully completing over 550 projects with 19 years of close collaboration with SAP. We have 16 offices in 10 countries and are an AWS consulting partner, an SAP Gold partner, and a member of the App House Network. And with that, I will turn it over to Mike with an introduction to DataLark.
Thanks, Jim. Okay, first I want to start off with why exactly did we create DataLark? So if you know LeverX does a lot of SAP implementations. We're the experts in a lot of different areas. And almost every SAP project requires some type of data migration. So whether it's big, whether it's small, there's some type of data migration. So a lot of the existing data migration tools, whether it be standard or custom, they can be cost prohibitive. They can be too complicated to use, so you have to be really a technical expert to use them, or they might just not be powerful enough. So we needed a tool, when we do migrations, because we're part of a lot of these projects, we needed a tool that provides some flexibility, so we can do any number of things. Scalability, whether it's a small project or a big project, we want to be able to scale up and do big migrations. We want something to be easy and configurable. So something that we can scale and then we can put together pretty simply. And also we wanted a tool with easy configurability that an end user could use on their own. So, we do a migration. We want to be able to leave the tool with you and you can use it on your own and do some of these migration work. So we have data integration. So data migration feeds data obviously into one system, one way. And it's usually from a legacy system of some sort, whether it's SAP or non-SAP, into a new system. This is typically a one-time activity. So you might have one migration project or a couple of smaller ones, whether you do big bang or spread it out a little bit. But our customers are coming to us more and more with a need to integrate multiple different systems. So SAP and non-SAP. So whether it's mergers and acquisitions or maybe for years you've been using another system to do some part of your business. A lot of our customers are going, hey, can we integrate these things together? And our data integration platform provides a foundation so we can offer flexible and powerful solutions to system-to-system integration. So a little bit about DataLark. So there should be a poll available on your screen. So we're going to ask you if you're facing any of these following challenges. So a couple of the challenges we typically see from our customers are, they might be migrating to SAP S/4HANA. So they need a tool that can help them do that. Oftentimes if they have these other systems, they'll have to manually re-enter data within several systems. Let me hide that. And then also standard and custom tools can be cost prohibitive and not flexible enough. So even if you looked into some of these tools, you go, hey, that does some interesting things. Maybe it's very expensive and you don't want to pay that price, or maybe the tool itself is just not some of the standard tools. Maybe they're not flexible enough. Maybe they don't provide enough functionality, or they can be confusing. Maybe you have some errors when compiling and transforming data. So how does DataLark simplify this data management process? Well, it streamlines migration and integration operations. So we're going to give you a live demonstration in a little bit so you can see some of that. And we manage the data coming in and out of your system with one solution. So you have one solution for both migration and integration. We also have pre-existing plugins that save time and development costs. We'll go over some of those pre-existing plugins, but you have some out-of-the-box features that you can speed up this process. It's kind of our 4 pillars for DataLark are data migration, integration, consolidation, and validation. So with data migration, we're talking about from legacy systems, we're talking mergers and acquisitions, and those are the kind of data migrations we're talking about, and then moving to S4. So with data integration, we can do extraction from multiple sources and propagate to various destinations. With data consolidation and DataLark, data can be brought together from a multitude of sources, and we can bring the data from other systems into your SAP system. And then with some of our data validation capabilities, we have extensive logging. We also have a simulation mode for additional data verification before running in a production environment. And so we can transfer your data from Excel, SAP, external APIs, and custom Python scripts. We'll go over that a little bit more. And we can migrate to any number of different SAP modules or using custom Python scripts, other systems as well. Let me take a look at the poll. So some key migration scenarios in ERP. So you can migrate data into SAP with your own custom solutions or standard products. But as we know, this can be time consuming and tedious. Our tool can automate parts of the data migration process. We can pull data from the legacy system, allow you to map fields from an intuitive user interface, which we'll show you shortly in a demo. And we can run simulations on the process before committing changes to the database. So a couple of key scenarios that you might have when you're doing data migration. You might be moving from an old SAP system to a new SAP system, like R3 to S4HANA. You might be moving from a legacy system to SAP. So Oracle Agile is a big one lately that we're seeing. You might want to move to S4HANA. And also we can migrate from SAP ECC to S4HANA. So why DataLark? So we support both SAP and non-SAP data sources and targets, and we can streamline the data exchange between parties. So our tool, I mean, we are the SAP experts. We do a lot of SAP migrations, but we're hearing more and more, hey, we have these other systems. So we have the framework and the platform to do this, streamline this data exchange. We have nearly 2 decades of experience in SAP, consolidated into easy configurable plugins with respect to specific SAP modules. So the ones that we have right now, the plugins pre-configured, which you'll see in the demo, they're based off, our expertise for years and years of doing these data migrations and doing implementations. So DataLark is a tool, it's easy to use. And with the plugins, it requires little to no coding. So I'm going to show you a scenario which I didn't have to do any coding. Anybody could really do this. And then DataLark could be installed inside any private network and incorporated in the landscape of any security level. And there's no data transfer to the cloud, which means 0 chance of data compromising. So DataLark is safe and secure. We can save pre-filled configurations, which can be reused over time for new different data migration rounds. So we also have flexible subscription-based licensing and pricing. So DataLark is a subscription model. You can be subscribed to a monthly or annual basis, depending on your project needs. And DataLark subscription model supports packaged offerings for migration, integration, and more. And we can discuss with you in more detail the specific scenarios which relate to your business case to provide a fitting package. And you'll also always have full support of our specialists available on demand. So experts on the tool and then experts in the field of data migration in these different modules. And our team can customize the product for your specific cases. So a lot of times, whether it's integration, migration, you're going to have some custom cases, maybe custom rules. We can help you with that customization. Okay, so I'm going to pass it off to Sergey. He's going to give us a product overview.
All right, nice to meet everyone. Yeah, my name is Sergey Shkaila. I was managing the development process of DataLark from day 0, from the very birth of it till its current state, and I'm proud to present you the general concepts and architectural overview of the solution that we built. In fact, there is a very simple idea that is put as the baseline of the product. DataLark serves as the liaison between some data source, some system that serves as the system that stores the data, and the data target, another system where this data should be migrated or integrated. And yeah, very basic concept. And within the architecture of the DataLark, we split it on 3 kind of conceptual logical layers: extraction layer, a transformation layer, and import layer. The function of the extraction layer is to connect to third-party source of the data. It might not be even the external system, some other cloud-based or prem-based application. It might be also such simple sources of the data as Excel file, or any database, SQL, or any other database that is hosted somewhere in your network. The purpose of extraction layer, the idea of extraction layer is to connect to this data source, fetch the data scheme that is stored in the data source, and present it to the user for the mapping, for the configuration. And of course, during the runtime, when we are migrating the data, the purpose of this layer is to constantly authenticate in third-party system and fetch chunk by chunk the data from there. The idea of the import layer also some understanding comes from its title. Import layer consists of the number of the connectors that are able to connect to the target system and fetch its schema as well and make it prepared for the data mapping with the schema that has been extracted before by the extraction layer, the schema of the data source. And of course, during the runtime, it connects to the data target and calls its API or interacts directly with the database and puts the data there. And the idea of the transformation layer is to actually configure the mapping itself and incorporate some modification rules, some transformation rules that might be applied by DataLark on the fly when we are moving the data from data source to data target. These use cases include some basic manipulations with data when we need to concatenate some stuff or modify the data structure based on some regular expression, or it might be also the joins of data from multiple sources into a single data model that might be migrated into certain data target. At the moment, DataLark is a desktop application, so it has a desktop interface, but it has been built following the approaches of the distributed web applications, and it has a clearly separated client layer and server layer, and server layer could be our future plans is to actually support the cloud version of the application as well, and make it prepared for the scaling purposes, because based on our experience working with the big clients, when we have the necessity to migrate, especially integrate big volumes of the data, the topic of the performance becomes essential, and the application should be prepared for it as well in order to integrate big amounts of data in relatively reasonable amount of time. All right, and speaking about the difference between the migration and integration, like I touched it before, but the same principle, the same rules, the same logic is executed for both migration into integration flow. The only difference is that migration means one-time operation of the data transfer from one system to another, from data source to data target. Integration means that the user can configure some schedule and then the data flow will be executed based on the schedule. It might be once per day, once per week, or once per 5 minutes, depending on the situation. Can switch to the next slide, please. Right, what data can we import? As with all the above, our main focus was, and it actually is at the moment, on the SAP data targets, and at the moment in the current build of the solution of the product, we are very focused on the SAP part that is responsible for digital supply chain, and we have out of the box connectors, plugins for the specific PLM objects like material master, labels, bill of materials, change master, document info, records, classifications, specifications, and business partners. Some of them are very relatively complex objects that whose data is spread across multiple places and tables in SAP. And the plugins that are available for the configuration out of the box, they respect all the rules, all the specific of these objects, and could be easily, data migration to them could be easily configurable if it's going to be part of a live demo. I'll show how it works. And we also have the framework that allows to migrate the data, in fact, into any SAP table, any SAP object. It's called any SAP. Within this plugin, we can connect to any BAPI and push the data into any SAP table as well. And non-SAP part, we have a flexible Python-based framework, some kind of wrapper where any piece of the custom Python script could be injected and executed. And it's actually relevant for all three layers. This kind of custom Python scripts could be injected on any level in case if systems, in case of products capabilities are not enough in order to cover all the use cases in terms of the data extraction, data import, data transformation. The missing required logic might be built on the Python and incorporated as kind of custom plugin in a very easy way. The instructions on how to do it are also going along with the system. We can switch to the next slide, please. Right, where can we extract data from? As well, our main focus in terms of the data sources is SAP and Excel files. So yeah, we can parse the data and extract it from the Excels of any complexity, multi-sheet Excels, and we can connect actually through the special extraction plugin to any SAP table and fetch the data from it as well. And these two main data sources, they are coming in the top swim lane, marked as in-app configuration. This means that users can configure interacting just with the product's UI connected to extract the data from an SAP source and Excel file. And the bottom layer, where we're listing such systems as Oracle, Azure, and basically any system that supports REST API interface. And there is 3 dots here, which means that in fact our Python data extraction framework that I mentioned allows to relatively quickly build the custom connectors that may interact with any data source. In fact, it produces the paradigm of any-to-any connector, which is like DataLark may serve in this way. So we can build the Python-based plugins that may connect any data source to any data target and perform any data transformation. And our overall strategy is to increase the number of the out-of-the-box available pre-built Python data extractors and data connectors to the target systems and enrich the product over upcoming releases with them. We can switch to the next slide, please, Mike. All right. Yeah. So once again, as I mentioned before, SAP Connector and any SAP Connector and Excel import plugin, they are available out of the box and they doesn't require any additional customization. The connectors to the to other systems, they are requiring a bit of coding, as I mentioned, but we very soon are going to, for instance, release the connector to the Oracle Agile system, which is one of the popular use cases that we are seeing at the moment, and the number of them will grow, but anytime the option to build something custom is still available. I believe, yeah, that's it from my side. I'm passing back the demo to you, Michael.
Okay, thanks, Sergey. So right now I'm going to go into a demonstration. So I'm going to end the slideshow. Give me 1 second. Okay. So let's go into a demonstration of DataLark. So this is the initial screen that you would see if you were to have DataLark on your computer. And so you can see we can create a new project or we can create a new folder. So I've organized my projects, my data migration projects, into different folders. So you can see I have one for bombs and materials, and I have a separate one, which is the one I'm going to go into here. So I can organize into different folders. So right now you can see this data migration project. I have this folder, I have two different projects. So I have a change documents. So if I were to click on this, on the right side, you can see the mapping that is happening. So you can have a little preview of what's going on along with some additional information. Today, I'm going to go into the create documents. So I'm going to double click here. So what's happening right now is it's connecting to the SAP system. So it was configured in the background. It's connecting to one of our internal systems so we can have all the connections. Okay, so let me bring these up. I'm going to go into what I've done with this mapping here. It didn't require any coding. It just be dragging and dropping, and I'll show that in a moment. I'm going to talk about the left side first. So we can see these are all of our plugins. So on the left side, we can see as data sources right now in this version, we have Excel import. So that's actually the use case that I have right here. So we can use an Excel spreadsheet and it'll automatically pull from the Excel spreadsheet. And I'll talk about that in a moment. And right now we have the Python data source that's very flexible, and we can call any number of APIs or pull from different systems. And in the future here, we'll have things like Oracle Agile Standard and a few of those other different legacy systems. We also have, like we said, digital supply chain has been our initial focus. So we have a number of discrete and process digital supply chain objects. So we have on the discrete side, we have materials, bombs, and documents, and then we have process like spec and recipe plugins. We also have a data target for Excel export as well. You can see we have the any SAP function as a target, so we can call any number of different functions for business partners for any number of different standard functions. So like I said, on the left side, I have put an Excel spreadsheet here. So if I click on files, I can see that I uploaded an Excel spreadsheet. And when I did that, it provided me all the columns of information. And then it pulled in this information automatically. So in this scenario, if you're familiar with document management, I'm going to be creating a DIR, and it's going to have standard fields, it's going to have a status, it's going to have characteristics, and it's going to have an object link. So how I did this is I pulled this over from the left side, and it's just drag and drop. So in this case, this would be how I would do it if I didn't already have it existing. And the way I connected these two pieces, so on the right side, we have the data target. I'll just delete this. It's just drag and it's drop over to the left side. So that's how I do my connections. So information's automatically pulled in, and I can pull it over to the right side, and that's how I make my connections. So the document information record, there's logic in the background for this plugin, and so I can either create or update with this, and then it pulls in some information that I would need, and this is flexible where I can add and remove different information. So here you can see I have the standard document data, so things like the key, and in this case I defaulted a couple things like document type, so I can have defaults, and I'll talk about that in a moment. And I can also put object links. I could have characteristics. In this scenario, I don't have the physical file, but you'd also hypothetically have the physical file. But this information is pulled automatically from SAP. So I selected actually in the background the document type. So if there was mandatory fields for that, it appears. Also, we have defaults. So here we can see I've defaulted the class name. In this case, we can have no default value. We can ignore the source completely, which is the case what I did because I just wanted to have it hard coded, or we can have only a source is empty. So if hypothetically, if not all your fields are filled in, we can take care of it that way. So I've made all my connections. This is what it would look like. Didn't require any programming on my side. It just was drag and drop, put it together pretty quickly. So I'm going to go into the data upload. 1 second, I need to move the screen. Sorry, the Zoom meeting. So I'm going to go ahead and click Analyze. So when I click Analyze in the background, it's making sure I put in all the mandatory fields. So it's actually checking to make sure, hey, all my connections are correct, and I've done the bare minimum to make this work. So so now I'm allowed to either run a simulation or actually commit this to the database. So the first thing I want to do So I'm going to click simulation, and I'm going to click start. So a lot of times you're doing data migration. Obviously, if you're testing things out, you're looking through some things, you don't want to commit everything right away. So this will allow you to just do a simulation. It's saying success, so I know when I actually run this for real, that it's actually going to work. And you can see it's showing me as it's going what the successes and failures are. And then on each individual one, I have some, these are more detailed technical logs, and then I'll have a log for everything that's been, so if I have errors, I'll be able to see this, and then actually I can take that spreadsheet, which I would get with the log, and if there was any errors, I could re-import it, make some changes, and then re-import it. So give this one moment. We can see it was completed without errors. We can see it was a simulation, and I could always click on the log and then get an Excel spreadsheet with all the successes. In this case, I probably wouldn't do it if it's successes, but if we had errors, I could pull that and see all the errors. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to run a second attempt. I'm going to hit start, and this is going to commit everything into the database. So I'll be able to see my successes. If I were to log into the SAP system, I would see that all this was committed to the database. So that's high level. This is the tool for a data migration scenario. And so I'm going to stop sharing, and maybe we'll have some questions we can go over. So let me stop sharing. Actually, let me put up the slides. Let's go over some questions we may have.
All right. Yeah, we have a couple of questions. Let's probably start with this one. Are the logs stored, or do they disappear when I close the program? Yeah, probably I'll take care of it. Yeah, like all logs, they are recorded and stored locally in the same destination where the application is installed. And yeah, right now we're working on the data retention feature that will allow to configure within the app the period that will define how long this log is going to be stored. And in order to not overwhelm the local storage with this too many information, but like depending on the configured rules, in theory, the logs for any data migration or data integration session might be accessed anytime. Hope I answered this one. Michael, I believe the next one would be better if you answer it. What future plugins are planned?
Yeah, so we have a heavy focus on digital supply chain. So future is SAP modules outside of the digital supply chain. So we have those other areas, and also standard plugins for things like Oracle Agile. That's a big one, or any of these legacy applications. So that's what we're going to work on in the immediate future. I got another question for you, Sergey. So if you need to build a custom extractor of the data or a connector, so somebody has a custom situation, what would be the process if I needed LeverX's help on this? What does that look like?
Yeah, custom extractor, it's actually, I mentioned it a bit in my speech, but there are two possible ways on how this custom piece of the logic could be built and enabled for the client. Like as I said, we have the guidelines and documentation on how to build your own custom Python data instructor or data converter or data importer. And after that, once it's built, it's just like a copy-paste operation to take this code snippet and incorporate it in that special plugin that wraps this code and executes over it. So very standard process. If you do not have staff that has enough skills and expertise in Python, in this case, we can provide our specialists, our staff in order to do it. And here we can provide some end-to-end processes that includes like business system analysis, some architectural design, actually the coding service, quality assurance service, and then for the maintenance of this build, custom logic. So we are providing here end-to-end services in this service. So hopefully I answered the question.
Yeah.
We also have a question in one more question that just appeared. Can you show us one of the DRs created by your migration process so we can see the metadata, originals, etc.?
Yes, I'm logging in right now. Give me one moment. I'm gonna pull. Okay, so let me know when you can see my screen. I'm just gonna show to you what happened in the background with a GUI screen. Can you see it?
Yes, we see it.
Okay, perfect. So I created a bunch of these. We just did it, external numbering. So I'm going to double click on one of these. These are the documents I just created. So we're looking at obviously the GUI, but you could look at this in the web UI or the Fiori app. We can see, one of the fields I had was laboratory. I put in laboratory addition. I didn't actually put in any of the originals, so my apologies for that. But it would work the same way if I had the mapping. If we go to additional data, I added a couple of characteristics. And then if you were to go into the standard SAP, if we're going inside baseball a little bit, we can see some of the change logs that were created. So in the background, this center axis shows us all the change logs, so everything's created. Also, there was a material link as well in here, so we can see an object link. If I were to click on this, let's see, and I could see that we could link to a material. So, yep, those are all the ones I created just for this. And then hypothetically I could go in and change those with another project. But that's what they would look like with the GUI interface. But obviously, you could look at the same information any number of interfaces. Okay.
Okay.
I think that's it for the questions.
And with that, our time is over. But if we did not get to your question, or if you have additional questions that you can think of, please feel free to reach out to us and we'll get back to you as quickly as we can.